I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. So 5 seconds left in the game. You believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at
You're listening to the Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
Hey, welcome to Big Wednesday. So Alan Autry here. Do you hear me, Jeremy? Are the folks hearing me? I don't hear me properly. It's an illusion. It doesn't matter. Welcome to, there we go. Now I'm hearing it loud and
clear. I'm covering you here.
Oh, you're turning me up there on there?
Yes.
I would say you're turning me on there, Larry, but people would get the wrong impression.
Yeah, really.
Welcome to Big Wednesday. Larry Powell, who's here with us. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, good to be here. That was really fun last night, wasn't it?
Man, you did about a 4-hour show.
It seemed like it.
Can you turn me down a little bit?
I can.
Right level. Now say something.
Okay.
Oh, that's perfect.
That working?
It's perfect.
All right.
Perfect, as Curly would say. Well, it's Wednesday after the big day. I'm thinking about all Republicans, all the pundits, expecting Big Red walking around today, their head down. Snap out of it. You're going to win the House.
Yep.
You have a good chance to win the Senate. Larry, I'm watching this and listening to this. And obviously, most of the people, the pundits on the networks, Republicans and Democrats, and most of the House have never played competitive sports.
They have not, because a win is a win.
A win is a freaking win.
Yep.
How many, I can tell you in the NFL, you go in and the worst thing to say is we're going to go in and win by 3 touchdowns. And if you can win in the last second with a field goal, it goes in the W column if you haven't seen.
Still a good thing.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Give me a break. And the Democrats going around like they've won, you know. Yay, we only lost by 3. We only lost.
Reminds me of Fresno State against UCLA when we lost by 17 points and we went down and cheered.
Yes, come on. Yeah, what's your take on this? To me, listen, the way this so crazy, with this crazy woke left, everything is free for everyone ideology that's coming at this country. Because if you don't realize a lot of stuff,
yep,
it's sad, but you're not living in the real. There's a lot of people that like free stuff.
They do.
It's the Democratic Party is the party of free stuff. And you're going up against a party that says you need it to work for that.
Yep.
That nourishes your soul. Let me tell you, that's a tough message when you put it on my side for jobs that should be given on the basis of race and gender only rather than on merit, hard work, and earning that job.
Exactly.
That was on the ballot. That's tough to win, too. So
I
think there's tremendous hope for this country. I'm going to tell you something. I'm elated by the results that happened last night. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. You got to remember, in a 50-50 split country, you only need 0.5% or so, and you're going to have 50.5 versus 49.5. And if you look at all of the reports coming out right now, there were so many 51-49s flipping both ways,
right,
back and forth,
exactly,
that we are completely split. So someone in either party has to come out and say, let's get together as Americans. Okay, and if they do that, it's going to go 54-46.
Let me ask you, staying with the sports theme, which I think,
yep,
I use a lot of these analogies, but dadgummit,
I think
they apply.
They do.
I think they apply. People talk about it in the negative. I get it. Realize it. You can go, let your mind think about that 50%. And you think about it and pair it, There's some other countries around the world where that electorate is not just split two ways. It's like 5, 6, 7.
Exactly.
You see countries like Israel trying to survive.
Coalition governments
with
all the time.
Coalitions of 5, 6, 7 different ideologies that have split off, created their own party.
Yep.
I mean, if you're on a football team, you might have 50% of the team saying, and you have 50% pass the ball.
Yep.
You can get together. They may be dug in there. Hardcore, man. Those old hard coaches from the South, remember those? Highest 40 yards in a cloud of dust. Keep that ball on the ground because you throw it up in there. There's 3 things that can happen to it. 2 of them are bad. Be incomplete or get intercepted.
Yeah.
And then there's the other half. Listen, you got to throw the ball because they're putting 8 men in the box.
There's no way to get by them.
So how do you compromise and get that ball in the end?
Maybe 50-50 is good.
Well, that's my question to you.
Yeah.
It's being talked about by both parties as one big giant. Really?
I don't think so. And here's the thing that I think it does to everybody. It forces you to talk to each other, compromise a little more, because look at the Senate right now, 49 for the Republicans, 48 for the Democrats, and still 3 undecided to be called. That could go either way very quickly, but it's going to force people to talk a little more because it could end up 51-49 for the Republicans, which takes Kamala Harris out of the equation. And
Which
now,
is huge.
Yeah, now you've got to have a lot more conversation. And if the House does continue the way it's going, 203 right now for Republicans, 187 for Democrats, the Democrats have to come up with quite a few 13 to 31 more positions. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
Shouldn't the Republicans, I'm thinking there's so much for the Republicans to be thankful for.
Yes.
To this one. Because let's face it, polling, I don't know where polling goes from here. Back in the day when you had landlines, call people up and you had to pick up.
Right.
They had great techniques to keep you on the phone, get the information out. With cell phones now, it's much more expensive for polling companies to do the polling. I've never been polled.
I've been polled one time.
Nationally?
Yep.
Yeah, I have not even my.
But think about this. Ran into an interesting statistic from one pollster who said that 27% of the 100% of a poll was Republican. The other 73% were Democrats. And then when they called it 50-50, it's not really 50-50 because you didn't poll 50% of the Republicans and 50% of the Democrats.
Yeah.
So the Republicans are always underperforming in polls and overperforming in elections.
Well, yeah. I'll get to that in just a second. The polling did on these battleground states. It was predicted to be razor thin.
Absolutely.
So the pollsters got it right. But what I didn't buy, and it was polls conducted by outlets, Fox News, they all came out that way down. I know there's a lot of pro-life. I'm pro-life. But I've also consistent, very substantial block of pro-choice, significant Republican women that otherwise buy the entire Republican agenda, government,
right?
All down the line, but that means something to them. Pro-choice, and I do believe some of these races, that issue is more important deciding factor than the polls indicate.
No,
what do you say?
Absolutely. And if you look at the polling on the issues, you'll find that the economy, and crazy gas prices, all of that stuff kind of folded into one, was number one. Abortion was number two, and other issues were down considerably less than both of those. And in many cases, abortion was the number one issue. It drove a big part of the agenda. And when Roe versus Wade got overturned, which a lot of folks were happy about, I think it had an impact for the last 30 days in seeing the Republicans have to make arguments to get back to the lead. And some of them were able to accomplish that, and some of them were not. So we lost very close races in the House by 1 percentage point, by less than a half a percentage point, and I think the abortion issue was the deciding factor.
Now, does that mean, in your mind, that the Democratic strategy to paint the Republicans as now, first they want to take your for your own body, now they want to going to come out gay marriage, other personal rights? Do you think that had an influence? Or do you think that those women and men, that was the big issue for them? They were already there. It didn't matter if the Democratic made that a big issue as they did or not. They were still going to come to the polls and take that out on Republicans.
I think they got a few more people out to the polls on the Democratic side because of that issue, but it didn't change a lot of minds. I think a lot of folks were, I'm going to vote on this issue for this person, but for a lot of Republicans, they didn't take advantage of how far ahead they were, and there are considerable House races where they could have taken advantage of a 6, 8, 10-point lead, and they got complacent, and they didn't do what they needed to do to keep the lead, or at least keep a 4 or 5-point lead.
Yeah, see, that's why I think the Republicans. I think right now at this moment, still kind of fresh. That decision, which reverberations still. I think wasn't a bigger factor because I do believe, like just in my gut, approach did say states modifying California.
A bunch of states we didn't think would, but did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Say this $5 gas. I'm going to go with it.
Yep.
And I think it could have been history much more, even though I think it was margin could have if the Supreme Court. Let me ask you this: with the big Kahuna election looming, 2020, big prize, is it not? Do you feel it's strategic? I think that
could not have happened at a worse time.
Well, I thought that too, and I may still think that. That's why I'm trying to talk about it. Did it because that abortion is always hanging over the Republicans, that scare tactic, this nightmare called repealing Roe v. Wade,
right?
That these Republicans, well, the nightmare happened for the Supreme Court, and maybe the sky in terms of not falling like that. And because they don't have that anymore, they can blame, say, hey, here's what's happened, but then they're going, wait a minute, passed it in our state.
Yeah.
And there's some states in the South that are not, and around. So I'm thinking maybe, I'm not clear on this. Well,
maybe it's another 50-50.
Well, maybe it's going to help the Republicans, because without abortion and without threat to democracy,
to hang it on the Republicans,
What do you have between? Is the economy going to improve so fast by 2020? We're going to be back to $2 gasoline. Every economist says no.
Yep.
We're going to go to a recession. So you had two clubs in your hands. You had threat to democracy.
Yep.
And you have the abortion issue. And one of them.
Let me tell you what's coming.
Maybe it could.
I think
help.
your thinking is clear. I like what you're saying. I think what's going to happen is housing prices are going to go back up. It's going to be harder to get a home. You're going to find that the issues, traditional issues that the Democrats use to hang Republicans with, is not there, and they don't have an argument for what's happening on the economy side. They don't have an argument for what's happening on the border. Even Clinton went to, work for one of the candidates for a House position in Texas and had to say, we need order on the border, and he just did that the day before the election. So I think they're beginning to realize they've lost their primary issue that they could hang somebody with, and the abortion issue. So I think you're right. The fact that it's now done, it's over with. This election, they used it as well as they could. They got the states to agree to abortion, several of them, but it's no longer going to tar people, the Republicans, anymore. I think it may actually be a good thing. I think your thinking is right on with that. Let me share something with you. Here in Fresno County, the vote turnout was under 20%. Under 20%. That's because they've reduced the number of voting locations.
Well, I should have figured that out. That's why I have you here on the show.
Yeah, I know.
I'm known as Captain Obvious.
Think about this. If 2 out of 10 are deciding what's going to happen in an election, it's actually only 1 out of 10 and one other vote. So 10% plus one vote is deciding every issue in California.
Larry,
that's sickening.
That's sickening. And intuitively, I got a feeling a lot of folks, common sense, sane people in the state that don't like what's going on, see in our state just go down the tubes in every area, man. Education, crime, the economy, everything. And yet, do you think they look around and say, it's raining, haven't voted yet. Doesn't matter anyway.
Pretty much.
Newsom's going to get win by a landslide. All these liberals stay in office.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Well, think about this. Fresno County is a good example of what could happen. Almost all of the Republican candidates in the Fresno County voting arena won their vote in Fresno County. The trouble was they went beyond Fresno County to other counties. So take a Senate race, take a assembly race. The Republicans in the county of Fresno are outnumbered by Democrats in registration, but not in voting turnout. So we didn't take advantage, though, interestingly enough, we didn't take advantage of that low turnout to actually turn the tide, and we could have. Think about this. If 10% more voted on the Republican side, that's 1 out of 100 people, or 10 out of 100 people.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
You could have changed everything.
Yeah, then you are actually living in. There's not too many of you around. There's Jack Nicholson. You're Jack Nicholson, and Ratchet mean as a junkyard dog.
Right.
But she's not insane. But the rest of the state is certifiably insane.
Yeah, they're all in the cuckoo house.
Well, that's the other. You hope that's not the case, but
it certainly looks like
what's going on here.
Yeah.
Is there really not to be as so bold as to say a silent majority that needs to be motivated? Just somewhat of a sizable silent minority that's not turning out. They did turn out. If not turn the state red, at least make it somewhat.
Less of a super majority. Just doing that would have made a huge difference.
And then the ones that are saying, move to the south.
Florida, Texas, Idaho, Nevada.
God, Santa California used to be the same place to live. Just a bunch of crazies. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the Trump effect. He's going to make an announcement.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's going to be about. And what the election last night meant. Some are saying that it validated Trump's influence and power over the party. A lot of races that would different way. Some people are saying Trump doesn't back off and doesn't agree to let DeSantis and people like Youngkin be the new generation, that the Republican Party is doomed for a defeat in 2024, even if Joe Biden runs. Talk about that.
Gonna switch him. Oh, maybe set that over there, out of your picture.
All right, just grab it and go. For my next song. To dream the impossible dream. To fight the unbeatable foe.
We got to get out your video. I'm
To
telling
bear
you.
with unbearable sorrow.
To go where the brave dare
Never
not go.
Oh, to dream the impossible dream. To fight the unbeatable foe.
This,
All right.
This was a major story for a lot of people recently.
Oh, yeah.
To dream the impossible dream.
Yeah. That election had absolutely no effect on me whatsoever. I'm totally in control. Had absolutely no effect.
Yeah. Not sure what these ticks are.
All right, let's do a little test. Do you hear me now? All right. Guillermo, I guess, is listening. Guillermo lost his voice. He was going to come in today, but he's lost his voice.
Is your sound okay?
Mine sounds all right.
All right. But you can hear me.
Yeah, and I got this away because I hate to hear my breathing. Really thought, if I put it right there,
Yeah, no.
well, that bothers me. I know I must be coming across the radio. Yeah. Sounding like Darth Vader in there.
Yeah, or Boris.
Like a dirty old man.
1 minute.
Okay. We having some fun on the Autry. Should change the name to No Retweet. Get rid of tweets, retweeting. Come up with your own tweet. Don't
That's
retweet
right.
somebody else's tweet.
It's no retreat, it's advance.
Advance, right. Come up with your own stuff. Tweet it once. And
Tweet it twice.
a lot of
Tweet
people,
it once
yeah.
again. Adam.
30 seconds.
a lot of people have got in trouble by retweeting stuff
Oh.
that they didn't really
Read.
Kyrie Irving got his you-know-what in a ringer.
Wow.
Okay. President Biden to hold news conference. He's going to lose.
10 seconds.
Love that 51 to happen.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now. 559-899-1550.
Hey, welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat with Larry Powell. Big Wednesday after the big election. Just saw up on the screen that Joe Biden is going to have a press conference, and you know what he's going to say. You know, look at that and say, okay, we lost the House. Democrats lost the House. May lose the Senate. I got a mandate. I have a mandate to move my agenda forward. No drilling, more war in Ukraine, more open border, more inflation. I mean, higher inflation.
It must
It's
be
good.
Must be nice
Yeah.
to not deal with reality.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what they ran on. And
Yep.
because they didn't lose by as much as they thought they were going to lose. He is going to translate that as a mandate of the people to keep
Absolutely.
doing the same crazy stuff. That's
Yeah.
my prediction.
I think you're
What's
right.
your prediction?
I think you're right.
What's he going to do? He's going to have
You
a
know,
president. What's your prediction?
But when you don't deal in reality on a regular basis, that new reality you created becomes your reality. And so what
And
you're
when that
saying
many
is
people
true.
and when that many people vote for it,
Yeah,
the non-reality becomes reality.
it does.
You tell a lie long enough, you start believing it yourself, right?
Absolutely.
What do you think he's going to talk? What do you think his tone is going to be? You think it's going to be conciliatory for, hey, let's come together, work together? or is he going to come?
You got to
Come
remember that didn't work last time, because that was the tone he took after the election. But he went and did a 90-degree turn, almost 180-degree turn. Immediately started going toward the woke agenda. He stopped being even semi-collaborative or talking about collaboration, and just went the other way completely.
Dadgum, this Senate race. I mean, the Senate really so much hanging on it, because
Yep.
if you get the House, which it looks like the Republicans are going to get, you're going to get some balance, right?
Right.
Because that's where most of the laws originate, bills. That's where the infrastructure bill originated from. Then it goes to Senate.
Yep.
And if you can stop that nonsense, and before it gets to the Senate, because that's big to stop, craziness, and then you can start to try to bring some legislation forward on how you spend all these trillions,
Right.
and make sure it doesn't come in the economy rapidly and create more inflation. That's what Jerome Powell's worried about. It's not about what's now. He's looking at all these trillions getting ready to come in, and he's going, I can't soft land this.
No.
Because they got, what, $6 trillion more ready to
You're landing
money?
a plane that is overloaded, and the tires are going to blow when you hit the ground.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a big crash.
And he could see it on his face.
Oh, absolutely.
But the Senate's important. So if you have the House, you can slow him down. But if you get the Senate, what you also do is stop him from nominating a Supreme Court justice, because some of the conservatives on there are getting a little long in the tooth.
Mm-hmm.
And, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you that's why it's so important to get that majority. And then even then, you look at both parties in these razor-thin deals. I think it could be ultimately good. We talked about it earlier. But the Republican Party has to consider, we get a 51 majority in the Senate, but we also got some Mitt Romneys in there. He's not going to automatically line up with the agenda. On the Democrat side, they got to say, we still got Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema to deal with.
Right.
So we're going to have to come up with some common sense.
Wouldn't it be nice to compromise on some things and find middle ground?
And you don't have on each side 100% programmed robots.
No.
Not that I agree with a lot of Mitt Romney. He's really disappointed me lately on. We won't get into that. Somewhere down the line when the subject's appropriate and that issue comes in, I'd be happy to talk about it. But in Murkowski, who lost tonight, that was one senator that the Republican agenda could not totally depend on. She got beat, right?
Yep, that's my understanding.
And she got beat by what most consider a more conservative senator, correct? I don't even know the lady's name. Because I thought Murkowski was going to pull that out.
I'm looking up Alaska election results here. Murkowski got 42.7%. Kelly Chewbacca got 44%.
Chewbacca?
Yeah. Chewbacca.
Could go some places with that, but I won't. Let me ask you this, because this is going to be a topic of the media constantly between now and the nomination process of the two parties for president of the United States. Last night, taken its totality, probably hard to make a complete analysis on this question because the Senate race is still up. But at this point, Larry, was last night's results a win or a loss politically for our former president, Donald Trump?
I think it was a split. He's smart enough to have supported those who were going to win anyway. So the biggest number of Trump supporters who won were already leading in the polls and ahead. He got 4 that probably were a toss-up and got elected that he went in and supported, but he also lost quite a few. So I don't think I'll tell you who the big winner was. It was Florida.
Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis was the big winner because he held his own during COVID. He stood up. He was not a Trump supporter. He stood up to everything that was coming out of Washington.
And he managed that Hurricane Ian meticulously.
Yes. I mean, he's probably the new face of the Republicans.
I think without a doubt. Now, Guillermo,
Yeah.
who's listening right now, he's probably don't scream too loud, Guillermo.
You'll hurt your voice.
You won't have a voice for 4 o'clock. But I agree with you. I think
Yeah.
last night, I think clearly people like DeSantis, Glenn Youngkin, who took the strategy of, yes, Mr. President, Donald Trump, appreciate your endorsement.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have it. But don't come here and help me campaign.
Let me
I got this.
Let me share something else
And also
with you.
And also another one, because I want this in
Yeah.
here for you to talk about too. Brian Kemp. He was on President Trump's, still his doo-doo list. He was on that must-go
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Trump went after him with the samurai sword politically. And Kemp not only survived that, he has prospered.
He won big.
Big. He got big, swept Republican support, Democratic
Yeah.
support, and beat. I mean, you can say what you want about Stacey Abrams, but as far as I hate to use this word rigged, I mean, she didn't rig it. She just used everything
She was
that
smart.
she could
Yeah.
to get voter registration, whether the person could utter a sober word or not.
Right.
She got all these folks that never voted and used the COVID rules at that time to get them registered. I mean, you got to tip your hat
Oh, yeah.
to her, and he soundly thumped her to the point she conceded.
Yeah.
She's never conceded. She lost the last time.
It's amazing, isn't it?
So you got to throw Kemp in there,
Yep.
and who not only withstood, the Trump cannons,
Yep.
but prospered politically.
Well, and when Trump last night, I don't know if you caught this, when Trump spoke about the election, he did not mention DeSantis once.
He didn't.
No. He talked about as many of the other elections as he could, but he did not mention DeSantis' victory. And that he sees what's coming. So I think, I don't know if he has pause, because I don't know if that's built into him to say, should I not make an announcement?
If I had to ask you one person this conversation would trigger, who would you think it'd be?
Well,
That we know.
yeah.
Who would it be?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah, I know it'd be our buddy.
Who? Guillermo?
Yeah.
Well, he so happens to be on line 1 now.
All right.
Go,
Go, Guillermo.
Sarantalot, are you there? Can you speak?
Debbie Downer.
Listen, it's not. Now tell me, it looks like the Republicans going to take the House. I say, wait, I'm an independent. Looks like see, I can sit back and analyze it, non-biased perspective. The Republicans are going to win the House and have a real good shot at winning the Senate. Why are you Debbie Downing?
Well, we have a real good shot, but Wednesday, it's almost 1 o'clock. Still haven't won the House. We were expected to win the House at least by 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we shouldn't be in this. It shouldn't be this close. It's like that football team that's really good, but they're getting challenged all the way up until the last minute of the game. So that's my biggest problem. This should have been an easy victory, and it wasn't.
Remember, we talked about on the show, I brought it up many, many, many times. This victory lap mentality, this we haven't won before the election mentality that the Republicans had, the conservative media. This doesn't surprise me at all. People like free stuff. And when you have a free stuff agenda out there, clearly they're unabashedly, hey, we're going to give you money, you don't have to work for it. Here's money. Why do you have to work when you can stay home in your pajamas and eat Captain Crunch and get paid for it? And that's what the Democrats are offering, and that's very enticing. They were ticked off the electorate about abortion. I knew that was going to trigger a lot of folks and create a big turnout, blue turnout. It was also going to affect some folks in the Republican Party, especially moderate women in the Republican Party. So this doesn't surprise me, but let me ask you this. If you're a football team and you go and you blow it out, you just blow a team out, invariably, the next game you play, there's a huge letdown, especially if you beat your rival. This was a rivalry game last night.
Yeah.
Built up over 2 years, build it up. It was everything. invariably the winner of that has a big trouble with the next game. And sometimes they lose that next game. The big game, the next game is the presidency of the United States.
Yeah.
And I think as the Republicans take a step back, do some introspection here about how they messaged this election, see where they went right, see where they went wrong, and if the leadership is strong enough and honest enough with itself and are willing to make the tough decisions, like I feel one of the toughest, is saying, look, President Trump, we love you. We appreciate you being on the team. You'll forever be remembered. Hey, if I had my way, we'd put you on Mount Rushmore. But there's a new era. And Ron DeSantis, Glenn Youngkin, folks like that are going to be the face of the Republican Party come the election in 2024.
As much as it pains me to agree with you on that topic, I think you're right. All the way down to local, all the way up until the national scene. America wants people. America doesn't want individuals on far either. We want everybody to be talking to each other,
Yes.
working it out.
Yes.
And that was very evident last night. So
Yeah.
I'm a Trump guy. I think I'll be a Trump guy until he decides no longer to be with the party, but running. But right now it looks like America doesn't want Trump back. As much as
You know what,
I hate to
Guillermo?
say it.
You had a really good night's sleep and came to your senses.
No, but you know what I would say if I had the group full of Trumpsters here that were total Trump. This is what I'd say to them. There's a lot to love about this guy.
Yeah.
He took on the media, calling fake news. He went where other conservatives were afraid to go for decades. He went where he had to go. Call the biased media out as not being media anymore, but just an extension of the Democratic Party. He had the guts and the courage to do that. On that one issue alone, not only Republicans, all of America owes him a debt of gratitude because it was out of control, the media. They were so biased. Mm-hmm. And so there's several things, the border wall, the lower taxes, the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans and Hispanics, and bringing those demographics into the Republican tent, a lot of stuff. But I would say, now raise your hand as a Trumpster if you also revere Ronald Reagan. I would think you would get 99.9% people raise their hands. And I said, okay, we've heard Reagan say this before, right? You know, he didn't compromise his principles. He was never going to become a high tax guy or a pro-choice person. But he said there's different leaders for different times in the world. God picks different leaders here. And his philosophy was, if I get 60% of what I want on a very fundamental, basic issue that the country needs, then are we 60% partners or 40% enemies with the people that we just made a deal with? He was called the great communicator and great compromiser. And we saw an era of prosperity for all Americans. Republican, Democrat, liberal, all Americans prospered during his administration. Yeah. That's why he won the biggest landslide in the history of the electorate his second time. He took all 50 states, I think 49 out of the 50 states.
Yeah.
He won things. And you compare that to the zero-sum game of Donald Trump. Now, you could say, well, he doesn't, of Trumpism. Trump is a deal maker when he's in office. Okay? He embodies that Reagan thing. But what's out there now is you have so many in the Republican Party playing that zero-sum game, and you don't have a leader. I mean, Trump's not willing to say, calm down. We have to work with the other party. That's not only going to be something that's a passing thought with me. That's going to be a basic tenet going forward here. My effort to work with the other party to move this country forward. I don't think he can utter those words unless we get a leader coming in like DeSantis, who's just as tough, just as strong, like Youngkin. I mean, embodies 95% of what Trump stands for, but can utter those words and bring people together.
Let me share a quote from Ronald Reagan that I think answers exactly what you're talking about. The quote goes like this: The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one who gets the people to do the greatest things.
Amen.
And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. If Trump could get the people to do the great things instead of relying on it to be on his back, which is what he's doing, I think he would have a shot. I just don't think he can do that.
Well, it's just like, Trump, Reagan get together and, men can have babies now, right? You're all birthing people. Trump and Reagan get together and they have a Ron DeSantis baby.
Yeah.
That's it. DeSantis is the offspring of the Reagan-Trump folks. And not be fearful of compromise, but you have so much anger in this country. You have people, it's going to take a very gifted leader, not a politician. Good leaders know how to use politics. They're very savvy.
Leader versus
They're
manager.
They're savvy politically. Good leaders are savvy, but the politics doesn't drive them. Politics didn't drive Reagan. He was politically savvy. He knew to run for president, and he's almost 70. He had to have pictures of him riding a horse and chopping wood. That was a political move. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. He knew the importance of political statements and so forth. But he was totally committed with every fiber of his soul to freedom and liberty of all America and making sure that was spread around the world.
Here's another really good quote from Reagan. When you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat. So he started with light first, heat second. And unfortunately, Trump starts the other way.
And never called anyone, even his worst enemy, a name.
Yeah. Didn't call him an enemy.
And people would have said, well, if Reagan was in today's world, no. There's people out there. And I think that's one thing that DeSantis is going to have to watch. He can get there. He's a fighter.
He's a little testy.
But he knows the line not to cross so far.
Yeah.
And I think he'll keep that.
Yeah.
But go Guillermo. I know it's a tough thing for you to well, not really. Once you see something and you make up your mind about something, I mean, that's the mark of a great leader, what you just said. I hope the Republican Party understands that I hope they're full of Guillermo Morinos, because there's no more staunch conservative I've ever known than you. But you care about your country. You love this country, and you know that it's important that woke left be defeated, and there's certain things that have to be done to defeat them. The right person has to be there because fighting the fight, because there are more Democrats in the country registered than Republicans.
Yeah.
You got this abortion issue you're going to have to overcome. You got a war raging in Ukraine coming
the border.
up. You're going to need a very, very adroit public servant.
Yeah, no doubt.
Able to navigate that minefield.
Let me ask Guillermo a question. Guillermo, what do you think about that turnout in Fresno County being under 20%?
It's just so depressing.
Isn't that something?
It is worrisome. Not even Republicans showed up.
I know. Yeah. And this was a time that could have made a huge difference. Just double that, and you still only got 40% turnout. But either party could have controlled everything with a doubling of their own.
How much do you think the weather had to do with that?
I think the weather had zero to do with it. I think malaise had the most, apathy. Yeah, all that had to do with it.
I think the Central Valley is interesting because I think you do have a lot of conservatives, but they're so turned off, I think, by being in California or just looking at California politics. I think the Republicans in this area look at what's going on at the state level and say, you know what, my vote doesn't matter. And they really don't think it's worth voting for anybody at the top of the ticket. I think that's our biggest problem. The Democrats, you saw it with Eva Islas last night. I think you're seeing it on the city council. I think the Democrats are really upset with the current progressive bend.
Yes.
On at the local level. So I think local Democrats got turned off because of their far progressive candidates. The Republicans were turned off, I think, because they feel here in the state it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, nobody showed up.
There were several candidates, city council, that won very slight. Others on school boards that I thought would win easily did not win easily. Now there was a big change in the Bullard area, and that was a huge flip. That was 65-25 or something like that percentage. But on the other elections, there was one that was, I think, 60 votes was all the difference. And,
well, 25 now with Veva. So what you saw in Sladek and Wittrup, and then Veva Islas and Karen Steed was you had Terry Sladek, who's on the very far right.
Yep.
You had Veva Islas, who's on the very far
left.
And it looks like the voters didn't like either end.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Terry, I mean, he's gone. He's not going to be there next year. And Veva's fighting for her life. 25 votes.
Down to 25. Wow. Yeah.
25.
I would never have called that, you know.
Yeah. It goes back to what I said at the beginning. It looks like people want people in the middle.
Yep.
Exactly. I tell you, you hit the nail on the head, too, here about the apathy. I made a visit up to Sacramento a few years back and talked to the Republican leadership. I've never seen a more apathetic group in my life. They said they weren't going to back any Republican candidate unless they had their own money. You know, this lays right in the lap of the Republican National Committee. Have you completely given up on California? Looks like they have, because that's going to be what revives this state if it's ever going to get back. Is fund these local movements around the country, get the word out in the communities, be engaged here, spend some money here, cultivate candidates here, good, strong candidates at the local level. You do that at the local level, then you have a chance at the state level.
Exactly.
But they just completely written it off. They get no help from the Republican National Committee.
And if it weren't for Kevin McCarthy and his ties with the Republican National Committee and just his leadership being way at the top and in the House, I don't think a lot of our candidates would have gotten the support they had.
Yeah, I agree with you.
McCarthy, Duarte wouldn't have been supported. So, absent Kevin McCarthy, we'd really be in bad shape.
Yeah, and I tell you, this just selfishly speaking, as a Central Valley resident, and it's not going to be that bad to have a speaker from the area. In terms of water,
big
and
issue.
some of these other things. I mean, if he can, especially if you can pull it off with the Senate, because you got a great opportunity, because if Newsom runs in 2024, he needs to keep California and needs to be seen as that centrist. And if you had a good water policy here with, the dam, the in it that we're fighting for. What's the name of the dam we went up there? Temperance Flat. And all these things we've been fighting for in terms of more water for the Central Valley. You got a chance to get that, because I don't think Newsom would want to go crossways with that. So if you got a bill coming forward, Newsom's running for president, even though he may not want to. Yeah. I think you'd say, hey, I'd support that water bill. You got there's opportunities here.
I think so.
That even though it wasn't the red wave, everybody thought it was going to be. Yep. If we get the House, squeak by.
Maybe it's a red breeze.
Well, I think it could be powerful. I think it was pie in the sky. I really do. I felt from the get-go. If you listen to my shows, I said, I'm not getting this, man. There's not going to be some huge red tsunami. Be happy if you get a win.
Yeah.
You're going up against very seductive forces, and right on the heels of the Supreme Court decision on abortion.
Yeah. Guillermo, did they call the Nevada Senate race yet?
I don't think they have.
I don't think they have either.
I don't think they have. But I think someone said it on Fox early this morning saying, there was a red wave, all right, but it ended on the shoreline of Florida.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, that's unreasonable to think that the rest of the country is going to go like Florida.
Not going to happen. But Lombardo, who is the Republican candidate for governor in Nevada, is way ahead, is leading. And I think that bodes well for Laxalt in Nevada as well. So I think he'll continue to hold the lead. That may put us at the 50, because I don't believe any of them have called the Nevada race. So that would put it at 50. And then you got to get one more.
I tell you, if the Republican leadership doesn't get in Lindsey Graham's face and say, get away from this bromance you have with Herschel. You're hurting him. He does nothing for Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
But in this runoff, Lindsey needs to go hide someplace. You're going to have to get more African-American votes, and Lindsey Graham does not get him more African-American votes. You know what I would do, seriously? I'd be at The Rock's house knocking at the door if I was Herschel.
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson, You see what Oprah did with Fetterman.
Yes.
I mean, that makes more sense than having Lindsey Graham.
I'd have Alan Autry get in there.
Well,
There
I tell you, our show is big with the African American
Yeah,
community.
I'd have Alan Autry, and if Herschel has half a lick of sense, it could make that half-point difference.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
You'd go and if you're going to have somebody standing next to him, talking next to him, it needs to be Tim Scott. It needs to be Tim Scott.
Yeah. Another quick question for you. What about the low turnout or the low reporting in California? Like Valadeo, we're still only looking at 31% of the turnout, the voting. Why is that?
Yeah,
What's going on? We're high-tech California and we can't count the votes?
I don't know if it's just cautiousness on the part of the county clerks, but I don't understand how you can have such variation across the 58 counties.
Yeah.
I don't get how 58 counties come up with a uniform process. It's very disconcerting.
It is.
It's habitual now, where Tulare, Fresno, you're not going to know for a week later.
Crazy.
Yeah. How about Measure E going down in flames? I mean, you had every heavyweight in this city, that were on. The mayor, you had Jim Patterson.
Yeah.
And I was kind of looking at Jim going, you've been voting for a lot of tax increases. Measure C went down, right?
No.
Yeah.
Did Measure C finally lose?
I mean, nothing's official until Fresno County decides to count everything. But I think this is great, a great example of economics and inflation. The voters say, hey, what are you talking about? I might want to see a nicer stadium or better roads, but I can barely afford to live.
Let me ask you one more quick question. Do you know what was planned with the money for Fresno State and Measure E?
It was predominantly a lot of it went to the stadium, but they also threw in the agriculture, the nursing, so they threw some money in for education as well.
Those broad things.
Yeah, you're in on this kind of stuff because you like it, you look for it, you study it. The average person in Fresno could not tell you what that money was going to be spent for. I think they did a very poor job of articulating that, and that cost them.
Well, I think it was a great night for Republicans. I know I go counter to the prevailing thought, but dadgummit, you won. It looks like you won. You're going to win the House. God, hey, you never count those chickens, right? But it looks that way. It looks like you got a good chance of getting the Senate. And so we are where we are, and we're still in America. God bless you, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Just do your best. Let God do the rest. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.